Everybody, welcome to the Rotowire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Jeff Erickson with Fred Zinkie here. It's going to be about streaming targets for the second half and a whole lot of news. Fred Zinkie, how are you?
I'm great, Jeff, for this morning podcast, which we haven't ever done before.
Yeah, I know. I've done it for like the Thursday one. I'm going to do it tomorrow for football. Get Chris Harris from Harris Football tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. Hey, I like doing the morning sometimes. Get it done. Then I have my XM show right after that. I also have golf today, so I'll be done in the afternoon. It'll be nice.
Are you a morning person? Like, I am definitely a morning person, not a night owl. Are you a morning person or a
Not
night
really.
owl?
So here's the deal. I don't like getting up, but once I'm up, I like being up early.
Gotcha.
So if you know what I'm saying, like I love the early morning. I love being out there. I just don't like the actual process of waking up early.
Yeah, I hear you. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I sent a tweet out last night. Anger Red's tweet, and it caught fire. It was about the Reds and how they've stood pat all off season and now in the season, having this like house on fire bullpen and blew another game repeatedly last night. And Reds fans, I think every single Reds fan I have on my Twitter feed liked it. I think it got went viral. I mean. It's like, because here's the thing, they're going to be like, oh well, we were gonna trade, but then we fell out of the race. We were going to add some relief pitchers. We're going to try to get credit for saying we would have tried, but they didn't try. They didn't, and they blew another game. They blew a couple over against the Brewers over the weekend. Now they're like 7.5, 8 out. It just stinks, man. Stinks when your team doesn't try.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm not in the trade negotiations. I wish I was. I don't know if teams. I wonder sometimes if teams are like hesitant to sell their relievers until the deadline because they want to try to get the best possible. Like they don't want to, you know what I mean? Like if you're calling the Royals or the Pirates or something, I don't know if they're hesitant to sell at this point unless they're really blown away because they want to wait till the last minute or if that's possible. But something that doesn't get discussed enough, and it happens once in a while, is a team like the Reds could add a couple relievers in June. And if they fall out of the race, trade those relievers again the week of the trade deadline and probably basically make it, a zero-sum deal where they give up a fairly low-level prospect for a reliever, like how the Jays traded for Adam Simber and Trevor Richards. If the Jays fall out of the race and they wanted to deal both of those guys, they can deal them both here in 10 days and probably basically get back like the same value they gave for them. I mean, you run the small risk that the reliever stinks for you or gets hurt and you're stuck with them, but that's a pretty small risk. So I understand your frustration. I don't know why these teams have to wait to the deadline. You can get in and then get back out if you really have to. And it's not like you're asking them to trade for like a cleanup hitter. Like you're just asking them to add a couple serviceable bullpen arms.
Right. And here's the thing. It costs you next to nothing to add those two relievers. I think that's the important thing. And in the case of the Jays, I mean, you added a little bit of salary. You didn't give up much in the way of possible major league talent. And in fact, who the Jays trade away to the Marlins in that deal there? It was
Joe Panik was in that deal as far as major league talent, and then Rowdy Tellez was in the other deal. So two players who weren't really helping Toronto. Right.
I mean, they are major league players nominally. They're fringe major league players, and that's what it cost you. So and it's. And you look at meanwhile, look at who the Reds are using to get to finish games right now. Granted, they have some injuries. Sims, Antone, and Lorenzen back on the IL. They thought Lorenzen would be a big boost to that bullpen. He got hurt in his first game back running the bases. Thanks. Great. But they have one guy, count him one, who was on their bullpen last year, basically. That's a major leaguer, Amir Garrett. They use Josh Osich, a cast-off from somewhere else. Brad Brock is a cast-off from the Royals this spring. Keith Hembry, not good enough to make the Orioles bullpen, although he's actually been pretty serviceable.
Yeah, he has. Yep.
But, Sean Doolittle is the one guy, and, they signed this offseason for 1.5, and he was considered to be a guy that, needed to be fixed. And guess what? He still needs to be fixed. He's got a 4.50 ERA and a 1.59 WHIP. He's gotten a little bit better, but not really. He got tagged pretty hard by the Brewers over the weekend. Changed up his pitch mix because his stuff wasn't working. That's what the Reds are trying to win with. They can say they tried last year, and they did. And I get them not signing Bauer. Yeah, that wasn't realistic that they were going to be able to get him back. But you know, I know I've gone over and over and over on this, but I need the therapy. So I'm sorry, bear with me, folks. I'll be done in a second. But it's just, and then they trade away Iglesias. We know this, the litany again, and they said they're going to have the financial flexibility to address the team. They didn't. They had financial flexibility to put the money into the owner's pocket. That's what's so aggravating about this. When they have a team that could contend in a pretty weak division, it's only them and the Brewers right now. The Cubs are tearing it apart. The Cardinals, once they lost Flaherty, they were just a completely different team. Showed how fragile they were, and at least the Cardinals tried this offseason. The Reds, they didn't. And that's what bangs my head against the wall.
Yeah, I get it. The wild card is not really an option for the Reds. It's just about catching the Brewers. And to catch the Brewers, they're 7.5 back now. And let's say had they added a couple relievers, maybe they could have been 6.5, 5.5, something like that out. You could get in striking distance. I mean, that's a big thing for your fans, to be in striking distance where you can say, hey, we've got, these series against the Brewers in August and September. Like if we could get a sweep here, if we could get a sweep in one and win 2 out of 3 in the other, like these things happen in baseball, and you catch them. They're not giving themselves a chance to do that right now. Like it's just like picturing the Reds sweeping the Brewers with that bullpen. And I don't even think the Brewers are that good. They just pitch really well, which is really, really important.
It's not even that hard to picture, though, Fred. Their starting pitching is pretty good. They went up to Milwaukee about a month ago, swept 3 games from in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Before the All-Star break, they took 3 out of 4 from them in Milwaukee, but they just got swept over the weekend. So we have the recency bias. It's just frustrating. I mean, they're a good enough team to be this close, and yet they just won't. I mean, they're getting nothing from Suarez. That hurts a lot. They've had Senzel out for a long time. I can see all the excuses, and there are good reasons that there are also excuses because they have done nothing to address the problems that they've had this year. And every team has problems. The Jays were without George Springer a good portion of the year. They've lost 4 relievers, 5 relievers of their own. They went out and traded for 2 relievers. They may not be the top of the line guys. We'd all like to see every team add Kimbrel, but in the meantime, that might not. The Cubs are probably waiting on Kimbrel to the last second, get the best possible deal. But they went out and got Simber. They went out and got Richards. And so they're in 3rd place. They're still fighting. They got a chance. Yesterday didn't feel like they had a chance. Ross Stripling gave them no chance yesterday. Oh boy, he was so good for a while, but that's 2 bad ones in a row.
Yeah, and I think maybe the problem is I think we were kind of all waiting for the other shoe to drop with Stripling. Like I think a lot of people didn't think this was sustainable, and now his ERA is over 5. Now, obviously, it really blew up yesterday. Like that is, I said in our notes, like that we can't call it a gomber because I don't think anyone picked him up because he was probably already rostered. At least in every 12 or 15 he was rostered. But holy moly, like it was a 2-start week, Monday night. 1 out, 6 earned runs, no strikeouts. It's
a gomber. It's a full-on gomber for me.
I think
you still had to make the decision to start him.
I guess. I thought
it's just a pickup.
Oh, okay. I thought the true definition was a gomber was someone you added from the waiver wire specifically for the 2-start week, and then they burned you. So, but if you don't have to be added from the waiver wire, then it's an ultimate gomber. So we'll see how he does on the weekend. He made a bunch of comments. I don't know if you saw them, Jeff, after the game about him being upset about the team going to Toronto. Like he spun it okay, like where he said like I know we're all glad to go to Toronto, but he just said like as someone with an infant, I think as a son, but an infant child, his wife and his child aren't going to come with him, so he's not going to see them for a couple months, and that's wearing on him. And all of a sudden, they're going to Toronto. It was a big buzzkill here, just because like the
when
title.
Did he say that?
He said it after the game last night. So he said like I wasn't mentally. I haven't been mentally right for a couple days because like I'm stressed because we just moved from Florida to Buffalo, and now I'm going to move from Buffalo to Toronto, and my wife's going to stay with the infant son. And, and I'm stressed and I'm not like mentally, I wasn't like in my best shape for the start yesterday. I get it. Like all these guys are people, and everything at the same time. Like, First of all, I don't totally get why his wife and son can't come with him to Toronto for a couple of months, like get a condo for a short-term lease or something. He makes $3 million this year. Like get a condo for a short-term lease. I feel like this is a fixable situation. The border is opening. If assuming if they're vaccinated, they can go around and do whatever they want as soon as they get here. Because that's the rules for the Blue Jays coming back. If they're not vaccinated, well, that's a totally different story. They wouldn't be allowed to. So if they are vaccinated, and I think the Jays have a pretty high number of players vaccinated, like if his wife is as well, I don't know. I'm not like, but I don't know. I would be very tentative using Ross Stripling going forward from a pitching sense. And when someone tells you that they're not in a good mental state, I think you should believe them.
Yeah, of course. It's when a pitcher says he's hurting, he's hurting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll say a couple things. One, this is a very real issue for these players. The same thing that kind of, when you're not in a transient mode like this, it's got to be unsettling. It's the human condition that you don't have a stable place. I think the Raptors were hurt by that last year in basketball. I think you look at something like the soccer teams in MLS, Canadian soccer teams that have to play in Utah right now. I think it hurts them. We saw one team fire their coach there in Toronto. They've been playing some pretty poor soccer. It is hurtful. I think it is difficult. Two, I think it's lunacy to mention it right after you gotten torched in the start. I think that you talk to your team about this. I understand it. You want people to understand, but you talk to the team should have people in place for that. And that's who you talk to about this. Maybe he was asked directly, and so I could be a little bit, I should be a little bit more understanding. But the timing comes off awful, right? After you get torched in a start like this against your primary rival in your division right now, and at least the first place team in your division.
Right. So the buzzkill, like it's just so yeah. So you think so? The Blue Jays just announced on Friday that they were coming home here in about 10 days. Tickets are going on sale for these games. I think they can have 15,000 fans or something like that. So tickets are going on sale, like maybe even today. I forget. Like I know people who are dying to get tickets. They haven't been to a baseball game, in a year and a half or more, whatever it works out to. Like and the buzz and like Bichette and all these guys are saying the right things. Like we can't wait to get back to Toronto and play in front of our fans in our home stadium and everything like that. And then the Red Sox are coming into Buffalo, and the Jays just swept Texas coming out of the All-Star break. So it's like, all right, let's go. The Red Sox are coming in. We're going to win this series. We're going to stay on this high, and then we're going to be home in 10 days, and we're going to really make a run. And then like Stripling just gives them no chance to win the first game of that series, and then just throws cold water all over the team coming home. And like, I get it. Like guys are upset. Guys are upset after a bad start. At the same point, by the time he was interviewed, that bad start had been over for 2.5 hours. Like maybe he hadn't totally worked it off, but like I know they talked to them maybe 20 minutes after the game, but his game ended like 3 hours before they talked to him. Right. So maybe think it over in your head and just be like, okay, so I'm not going to talk about that publicly. Like you said, I'm going to talk about that with my teammates and my friends and my family and management and things like that. And I'll just say I didn't have it. He could have just said, I just didn't have it tonight. And Boston has a good lineup and,
right.
Had tipped.
I will say this. How many Jays fans are taking their cues from Ross Stripling? 5?
None. Yeah. Probably none, except that they know we've got ground to make up. And especially on Boston, but in the wild card race too. And they just
momentum is the next day's pitcher, though. Although unfortunately for the Jays, it's not going to be Alek Manoah,
it's Thomas Hatch. Yeah,
that's a bigger buzzkill to me than what anything Stripling could say. But that's also because it's in Manoah. They announced the news on him right after rosters locked in AL Tout Wars. Although I can do the midweek substitutions, I don't really miss anything. But I missed 2 starts this week. Now, granted, one of them was against the Red Sox. And that's the thing. All these AL East teams are playing each other right now. Like, you want to pick up Tanner Houck? Well, no, he gets to face the Jays and then the Jays again and then the Rays. It's like, it's really a bad time when they're beating up on each other. Unless they're facing the Orioles. I mean, it's really a tough fit for these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a good run here of divisional AL East matchups, which is going to be hard on the pitchers. It may come out okay with Manoah because they can backdate the IL stint, and I think that would maybe part of the decision making. And I think there's at least a chance you could get 2 starts from him next week.
Right.
So we'll see how, if he's back early next week, if this is just a thing where he slipped on the dugout steps and his back was a little sore and he couldn't start tomorrow or sorry, today now, like tomorrow when they made the move. And they said, well, let's just give it a week and we'll skip you this time and you'll be back, on Monday or something like that. They commented that they feel like the relievers are actually really fresh because they played the 7-inning doubleheader and got good starting pitching on the weekend.
Right.
I think good starting pitching overall all weekend. So they haven't used some of their relievers in a while. So they said we're really fresh to use, 6-7 guys tonight if necessary.
Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting to see how that works out. But the thing is, what it will do though is it's one of those pitchers that's going to either have to pitch on short rest. Or do they have an off day like Thursday or something like that? That
I think
helps?
they do not. No.
Yeah,
So
they're
they'll
going
have
to be
to
kind of
cover
out of
Sunday
sequence now. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have to cover Sunday, which if the starting pitching goes like it's been, that could be another bullpen day. Like the way Ray and Ryu have thrown coming out of the break, maybe they'll feel comfortable doing another bullpen day or they'll have to bring someone up for a start. But yeah, but then they could send that person down and bring Manoah up early next week.
Yeah.
So let's hope this back thing isn't really a big deal. He's a big dude, so that's not great. He's also a young guy though, and young people usually recover a little quicker. So hopefully he's all right.
Yeah, but the problem is yesterday ended up being a bullpen day by default. So that was bad timing there. Yeah. All right, so we got our Reds and Blue Jays therapy out of the way nice and early. By the way, this podcast is brought to you by WinBet, winbet.com. Please go use them if you can gamble in your locality. Let's jump into it's Josiah Gray Day today. Yep. Pretty excited about him. He's a pretty good prospect. The Dodgers probably top pitching prospect. Not even probably. He is their top pitching prospect, at least in the short term. James Anderson has him number 65 on his prospect rankings. He's going to debut today for the Dodgers and might be as a primary reliever, might be as a starter. He hasn't thrown that many innings so far this year. He's only pitched in 4 games, 15.2 innings. What do we expect out of him right away?
I expect good pitching. Like Dodgers pitchers are usually fantasy assets in terms of the ratios category. Like it's pretty rare that the Dodgers use a pitcher for a significant length of time and he stinks as far as ratios go. And Gray is really talented, like career 2.41 ERA in the minors, career 0.93 whip. It's about 200 innings that he accomplished that in. So I'm expecting good pitching. It's just a matter of how much pitching. So it sounds like he's not going to start. But that could be a nice role for him if he's piggybacking off a starter, and throwing innings 4 through 7 or something like that, or 4 through 6. That gives you good win potential. So, I was kind of looking at where he might go going forward as far as like how much does someone want him? Right. I think in a daily league, I would pick him up for today and then see how they use them and maybe how they use them for the rest of the week and where they go with this. Like, I get that there's a chance he could just go back to the minors at some point, when Kershaw is ready to come back. I don't know what's going to happen with Bauer, if he'll ever be back. I don't think anyone has any idea. He could be back in 10 days or he could not come back all season. I don't think anyone knows. Right. So, but I think Gray's going to pitch well, so I'm interested in adding him. We'll see by next Sunday in NFBC how interested I am in adding him. It's just whether they're going to use him as like a 3-inning starter. At that point, it's Luis Patino all over again, except I maybe have a little higher hopes for Gray. But it's kind of Luis Patino. If he's a 3-inning starter, I don't want him. If he's a 3-inning reliever, then I'm kind of interested.
Right. Yeah, you're hoping he becomes Ryan Yarbrough or something like that. Although. Yeah. Or that he gets stretched out. I mean, here's the problem for the Dodgers is they're down Kershaw right now. They're down Bauer. David Price, they're trying to stretch out. I think he threw 4 in his last time. That's going all right. Tony Gonsolin pitched last night, had no command once again. He's a real problem for them right now. So basically they have Buehler and Urias that are the only guys that can go 5 right now. That's a problem. That's a huge problem for the Dodgers, despite them playing well otherwise. They're really going to the soft underbelly. And I know they're going to get Knebel back at some point, but no Ferguson, no Conley, obviously no Dustin May. He's not coming back. Who knows when Jimmy Nelson's going to be able to come back? They're thin. They're very thin right now.
Yeah, I'd say they're almost certain to add some starting pitching at the deadline. I think they have to.
But the inventory is crap, Fred. I mean, it is really bad. The best pitcher is probably going to be Kyle Gibson, who just got torched by the Tigers yesterday.
Yep. I don't really believe in him. Yeah, you're right. And the Dodgers, they don't usually take crap at the deadline. Like I think of my guy Tyler Anderson. I was kind of like Tyler Anderson. He's had a pretty okay season with the Pirates.
Yeah.
I think he could eat, like he could have like a four flat ERA. Maybe you get lucky and it's a 3.6 down the stretch for some team. Like you throw him on the Dodgers, he eats 5 innings every start, gives up 2 or 3 runs. Josiah Gray follows him up, something like that. I think that at the very least, but there's going to be a lot of teams who are going to want him, even though he's not that good, just because there's so many teams out there that could use another starting pitcher. So I think this Dodgers staff, if they're going to win the World Series with this staff, without Trevor Bauer coming back, they would need to stretch Gray out and use the fact that he's thrown so few innings this year to actually use him as a starter the rest of the way. Can he handle that? Maybe. I think there's some potential upside there, but I do think the Dodgers will be right at the front of the list of teams trying to pick up a starter in the next 10 days.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know what? We say that the market is what it is. We don't really know if there, some other team is going to see the market and see like, okay, hey, we can make a killing. Maybe it'll be my Reds and they'll trade Sonny Gray or Luis Castillo or something.
Jose Barrios, right?
Yeah,
like Barrios could get traded if they could get enough for him.
Well, yeah, because they're trying to talk contract with him and it hasn't gone anywhere so far. So that might be your answer there. Someone's gonna, they're gonna jump in and see, okay, I can, although teams don't trade top prospects hardly anymore. So at least that's the line. We'll see if that happens. But I'll tell you what, that would change. That would be the changer, is if there's someone out there that says, okay, you know what, we're gonna throw our hat in the ring. Pitcher X, you're available if we get the right deal, and the Dodgers will say, okay, well, won't be Wilman Diaz probably, but maybe they will trade one of their top prospects, because the Dodgers got it done with Yu Darvish a couple of years ago, in 2017, I guess that was. But someone might finally just say, okay, you know what, our team is good enough, it's worth it. No one, we can make a big deal and nobody else can. That might be how it happens. Maybe I'm just wish cashing. I like big deals.
Max Scherzer is the other one I think of if the Nats decide to trade him. Like he's just like them getting Darvish, right? Like there's an ace or a 1A ace with Buehler or however, but like all of a sudden you add Max Scherzer and all of a sudden they're, I think easily the favorites to win the World Series.
Or the Cubs trade Kyle Hendricks or something like that. Or they, but even though that they're not talking about trading him, but things happen. And even more so, those guys are more attractive to other teams because you get them for more than just this half a season too. In the case of Hendricks, whereas with Scherzer, it's completely a rental, and that's the difference too. So sometimes we get so locked in on, okay, which contracts are expiring and all that. And a lot of teams are going to be that way too because of the CBA. I mean, I think a lot of teams want to find the expiring contract. Okay, fine. Well, as long as we don't have any outlays after this, then that's fine. But I don't know. I'm really hoping we see something big, anything big. It just gives us something to talk about too. Before we go into streaming targets for the second half and more news, a quick note from our sponsors here. And that was a quick note. We are back. Okay, Fred, let's talk about your article that went live on Yahoo, and I think it's very pertinent for right now. Who are we streaming against right now? Who are our favorite targets we're going after when we're trying to find guys off the waiver wire? Because let's face it, it's been hell trying to find pitchers off the waiver wire lately.
Yeah, so we've almost gotten to the point, I think, where I think other than there's a guy every couple of weeks who I'm kind of interested in, like maybe a Zach Thompson a few weeks ago and guys like that, where you're like, okay, maybe there's some skills here. Beyond that, I find often when I'm filling out my last pitching spot, if I'm looking at the waiver wire, I'm almost not, I'm like, I don't like any of these players' skills. So let me just find the person who has the best matchup. Like I don't want John Lester, but if he's home to Arizona, well, I'll give a shot.
Or they're the Marlins like yesterday,
Yeah, exactly.
The two streamers yesterday that worked were guys that have gotten bombed recently, Lester and Caleb Smith.
Yep.
And I was at the Caleb Smith Dodger game. And so I'm like, in my mind, I was like, not considering it. I was a bad fantasy player. I was a really bad, I used visual in-person bias to influence my decision and just completely outright dismiss the possibility of him being any good. I just saw him nibble and nibble. Well, you don't have to nibble against the Pirates. He didn't. He was fine. In fact, he was mad that he got taken out because the reliever let his inherited runner score. It could have been a much better outing if he could have gotten out of that seventh inning. But, the point is that was a successful stream. John Lester was a very successful stream. Even homered, although you didn't get credit for that. But point is, you really have to you have to go with the matchups, and I think that those are two very good matchups.
Yeah, and I think I think that's a great point. And I think with Caleb Smith, like my concern with him, and I didn't use him anywhere for that start, was that maybe he was hiding an injury or dealing with an injury that they weren't talking about, just because the previous start had been so bad. But the streaming targets right now are like basically all in the National League. They're not all. That's not true. They're not all in the National League. Like Seattle's a streaming target. Interestingly enough, the Orioles are a streaming target for righties, but not for lefties. The Orioles are like top 10 and at times recently been top 5 in the league in OPS against lefties. So you should be like a little more careful. Like these are the things that a little more advanced research I think can help with. Like if you've been streaming some lefties against the Orioles, I mean, it hasn't gone so well so far. I mean, maybe you think that's an aberration, it's going to change, and then by all means go ahead. But so far this season, the sample size is starting to build up. They've been pretty good against lefties. So the targets are mostly in the National League, and you're seeing 2 of them play each other right now with the Diamondbacks and the Pirates. And then I think the other 2 are right now are the Marlins and the Cubs. The Marlins have been like, it's weird. There's some interesting guys in that lineup, but they've been just consistently bad all season. Like all season, they've been like bottom 5 in OPS. They get Starling Marte back. They're still down there. Adam Duvall has a few great games. They're still down there. Garrett Cooper had a few great games. They're still down there. Like they can't get out, and they're bad against lefties and they're bad against righties. And their park's good for pitching. The only thing about the Marlins that pauses me once in a while a little bit is at least their starter is probably going to throw well. So to get a win, you need to throw just a little better, where it's like I'm like full steam ahead anytime a guy's facing the Diamondbacks or the Pirates. And the Cubs are getting there for me because like they've been awful in the last, like I think they're bottom 2 in OPS since June 1st.
Right.
All those veterans are struggling. Those veterans are probably going to get traded, some of them anyways, but I don't think the ones who stay are necessarily going to come around. Their rotation has some bright spots, but not a lot of them. So I think the Cubs are quickly becoming one of my favorite streaming targets.
Yeah, I'd agree. Going back to the Marlins, Jess Chisholm on the IL.
Yeah.
Garrett Cooper on the IL now. And Chisholm's been on and off this year. Same with Cooper for that matter. Those are 2 guys that have actually played pretty well. And you take them away. Yeah, I agree. They're a good target there. And of course, the ballpark too. It's a good ballpark to pitch in. So there's that as a factor too.
Yeah. I find on Sundays when I'm doing my bids now, I'm like, I go through all the available pitchers and I think to myself, like, is there anyone here I like, who I actually like? Like, I like their skills. I'm interested. Like I said, there was Zach Thompson a few weeks ago. I was kind of in on Bailey Over at one point. Tristan McKenzie a couple weeks ago, I was interested in when he came back and had that 9 strikeout game, like where I'm like, okay, I could see this person actually, being in my lineup for several weeks. Yeah. And once we get through those players, and lately the list of those players is some weeks 0 and some weeks it's like 1 or 2, but it's really small. Then I just go to the schedule and I'm like, okay, well, who plays the Pirates? Who plays the Diamondbacks? Who plays the Marlins? And who plays the Cubs? So I'm just trying, like, that's where we're at. And you're right. Like anyone who streamed, and I didn't, but anyone who streamed John Lester last night is really happy they did. And you can just go ahead and hopefully his second start this week goes okay, but you can just go ahead and drop him. And I find we get really in fantasy, we get really into 2-start pitchers. Like there's so many articles and podcasts and everything about 2-start pitchers, but we don't talk about just like the 1-start pitcher, the guy on a Wednesday who's at home to Colorado. Right. And Colorado on the road is so bad. Like if you get a 1-start guy home to Colorado, you should probably take it.
The Rockies have 9 road wins this year. 9.
Yeah,
that's really revolting.
Their road OPS is under 600 as a team. And they're probably trading their best player, Trevor Story, here in the good chance in the next 10 days, and maybe someone else. CJ Cron, I think, is a prime target to get traded. So 584 OPS, and they're going to get worse in the next 10 days. Caleb
Smith drew the Pirates and the Cubs this week.
It's great.
Which. Yeah. I am donning the cone of shame. I do not like the cone of shame, but it's there nonetheless. Michael Conforto, a couple homers yesterday, courtesy of the Reds bullpen. See also. But he, in the last 3 days, he's doubled his home run count for the season, which speaks about how poorly of a season he's had. But is he back? Are we buying back in? Is this just a Reds aberration?
Well, I'm sure the Reds didn't hurt, but I think we've all felt like Conforto's going to come around.
Yeah.
Like at some point, like he's had injuries. I could see, I don't think like like it was a hamstring earlier. Um, I think he's going to come around. I think he's a buy low, and I think he's probably still a buy low. Like even like you probably can't trade from this morning after the 2 homers. But if he has
Yeah.
if he has 2 quiet games, maybe the Reds don't have to go into the bullpen as much tonight or something. But if he has a couple quiet games, I think he's still a buy low. He's still at 6 homers. Like he's still hitting 217. I don't know. Conforto is like a really, really good player. 927 OPS last season. I just can't see him staying down all year. Like if he had a shoulder injury or something, or a wrist or something, I'd be like, okay, well maybe it's just not going to happen. He'll need a full off season. But a hamstring for a guy who doesn't run, like doesn't steal bases, I think he could come back and hit 15 homers in the second half. Don't you?
I do. I am buying
Yeah.
back in, but I was buying to begin with too. So there's some
Right.
confirmation bias here. Just to, this is my guy. So
Yeah.
I want to believe. So, but speaking of the Mets, bad outing from Edwin Diaz. He was another closer who was really good early, who's not so good late. July 10th, his ERA was 2.86. It's now 4.30. That July 10th, that was a week, basically a week's worth of games ago, because we had the All-Star break in there.
Yeah.
So, yikes.
I don't know why Edwin Diaz can't be a good Mets closer, but so far, like he just can't. I don't know. And maybe this is nothing. Maybe he's going to come back around and it's fine. But I mean, like his first season with the Mets, 5.59 ERA. And then last season, he just blew the closer's role right out of the gate and then pitched well, but never really got it back. Like he got 6 saves, but you didn't want 6 saves when you took him,
Right.
as their closer. And then this year, everything's I have no Edwin Diaz. I just didn't feel great about him. He's just so inconsistent, and the control skills, and I don't know. And he had proved me to be the fool all season up until the last few days. And now, if you have Edwin Diaz, you've had him in your lineup every day of the season, and you've got a 4.30 ERA now. So now you do have 19 saves, but he's got to convert the next one. Like I know he only gave up 1 run last night too, so it wasn't like a total disaster, but it comes off a disaster. The previous one was 4 runs. Like I think he gets their next save chance, don't you?
Yeah, I don't
Unless
think there's
it's tonight. Maybe not tonight.
Well, no, because everybody else pitched. It was a long
True.
extra inning game. Lugo pitched. May pitched. I mean, you could see maybe Trevor May.
Yep.
But
yeah, like the reason I could see him not getting tonight is just that he's had a couple, like 3 bad outings in a row. So, maybe they back off him for a couple of days, and just so that this whole thing doesn't snowball. But yeah, Trevor May threw 8 pitches last night. So he could be available. Trevor May has their last 2 saves.
Yeah.
So like in the last 2 days, he has 2 saves. So I'm assuming he's the guy if they move off Diaz at some point. So
it's not Lugo. Lugo hasn't pitched well lately either.
No. I agree.
Yes, I am furtively checking right now to see if Trevor May is available in Friends and Family.
This is why I never get anyone in Yahoo Friends and Family. And I've been awake this morning for hours. And I wrote the show notes to get ready and mentioned that Diaz, and I still never went to Yahoo Friends and Family. I don't think I've signed anyone good in that league for months. I just never think of it. I think of it. I just think of it too late.
Well, I guarantee you he's already gone, but I'm still
sure.
typing.
He probably went last night at some point when I was like falling asleep or something.
There's a Rasbo guy, I'm sure that took him. No,
Yeah.
Funston has him.
There you go.
That's someone I don't even see usually making moves. Good job, Brandon.
Yeah. Lugo's actually been like pretty good this year. He has he just has that awful outing, like previous to last night, like the 5 runs in 2/3.
That just killed you because the thing is, I used him for the short half week because as a safe guy, right?
Yeah.
And safety is an illusion.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I'm just talking about the Mets as far as considering him as a closer, they could, but I think they really value his ability to throw multiple innings sometimes, and May doesn't do that at all. So I think May's the guy. 47-12 strikeout to walk so far this year. May hasn't been awesome this year, but he's been fine. Like if they need to back off Diaz, like Diaz needs to get convert his next save chance. This could just be a bump in the road, but we always talk. I don't know. Now I'm just ranting, but we always talk about Diaz, I find, in draft season as a top tier closer. And then every year he just seems to have something since he's joined the Mets. But even, since he's joined the Mets, every year he seems to have something go wrong and he doesn't meet top tier closer expectations. So I don't know. Is this just another year of and is this just another, the Mets are going to Mets, like Lindor's out, DeGrom's out, Diaz can't convert saves. I don't know. At least the Pirates gave them that one win on Sunday.
Yeah, that's right.
And just gave that game away.
They did. That whole series was about giving. It was a very odd series.
Yeah.
Taijuan Walker with his thing. And, oh, yikes. But all around weird stuff going on. We finally had two good young players become available. And Talwar is, Brandon Marsh was actually available to be bid upon in AL Tout. But, and I did get him there. But Jaron Duran was available in the NFBC. And he batted second yesterday. And he homered yesterday.
Only went 1 for 6, but whatever. They scored a lot of runs and he homered, so it's all good. I would rather have Duran than Marsh the rest of the way, but
me too.
I'm quite interested in Marsh. I'm interested to see where the rest of this week goes. We've talked all season about how desperate the Angels are for outfield help, Adam Eaton notwithstanding. And we always talk about it in the Joe Adell context, but maybe it's not Adell. Maybe they leave Adell in the minors a lot longer to keep working on reducing his strikeouts and everything. And maybe it's Marsh. And so there's definitely an opportunity there for Marsh to run with it. And we don't seem to know how much power he has, but I think we can say that he should. I mean, I guess Jared Kelenic is a sign that no one will for sure, but Marsh should be able to hit for a decent average and get on base.
Yeah, I think so too.
So 3 hits last night. I think he's interesting. I don't think he'll be super expensive on Sunday in the NFBC because he wasn't available, right? This past Sunday. But I think he'll cost a bit.
I think he'll be triple digits in most leagues.
Interesting.
Although, that maybe not, because just the amount of fab remaining for every league is going to be a bit an issue there.
Yeah. But that was my thinking, is that there's just not a lot of fab out there. And then also, I think we know we are all so reactionary in these leagues that if he's hitting 375 on Sunday, you're right, he's going for triple digits. If he's hitting 225, then I think he goes for 50 in a lot of leagues,
with 10 strikeouts or something like that. Yeah.
So
I think I don't think they intend to call up Adell anytime soon. No. I think the Marsh call up is indicative of that, because Marsh took time to get healthy and all that, and got the call, whereas Adell, who's hitting for power still, I mean, there's been no word of it. Upton is still on the IL, Trout's still on the IL. Both will be coming back relatively soon. They may never call him up. I don't know. Yeah,
if they wanted to call up Adell, they would have, by now.
Right.
It's late July. If they, the minor league season, I know it was delayed. It's been going forever now. If they wanted Adell up, they don't want him up. I mean, maybe they bring him up in September or something. We'll see. I'm sure now that I said that, they'll bring him up as soon as we're done recording. But no, but in all seriousness, you're right. Trout's coming back. The Angels, by the way, are just another. I don't. If I was an Angels fan, man, the amount of years they've wasted of Mike Trout, and now they're going to waste a once in a lifetime, maybe not, hopefully, but an Ohtani season that's one of the most memorable of our lifetime, and Trout another year. That is really frustrating.
Yeah. They've tried, but they kind of only gone 3/4 of the way. Let's face it. They got unlucky. I think they got unlucky that Dylan Bundy turned into a pumpkin. I mean, that was, I don't know if he's not getting good coaching, why he turned back into a pumpkin. Maybe he always was a pumpkin. They just got a good run from him last year. I don't know. Sandoval's showed some promise, but the problem is, it's the pitching. It's always been the pitching for them.
That's it. Yes, it's been the pitching, and Andrew Heaney never meets expectations, and Ohtani's been really good pitching this year, but he doesn't eat a ton of innings for them. He's going to finish the season with 130 innings or something like that. Like they're going to be good innings, but he's not going to carry your staff the way they're using him, which is fine. Like obviously he's incredibly valuable. Yeah, like you said, they've tried. They've signed Anthony Rendon, who hasn't worked out at all so far this year.
Yeah.
They've tried in the sense of they've tried, but they've stopped short of signing a bunch of pitching to really put the finishing touches on this roster. Like they're like 2 successful starters away, and they seem to have a bad combination of they don't want to pay for a good pitcher, and they don't seem to have a good vision. Like not to pat my Blue Jays on the back, but how they quickly gobbled up Robbie Ray again in free agency and thought they had a plan for him, and it seems to have worked perfectly. They grabbed Ryu and paid him a decent amount from the Dodgers, and he's worked and believed he could be successful in the AL East, and he has been. So the Angels have seemed to be a bad combination of they don't want to just pay for the aces, and they don't seem to be able to figure out how to take the other guys and figure out how to make them effective.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
they did, and they traded for Iglesias.
Mm-hmm.
They took a gamble on Quintana. That hasn't worked out well. Bundy obviously hasn't. Cobb's been just okay. I mean, they've tried at least. They're not in the Reds category where they just haven't tried. In fact, they took Iglesias from the Reds. So I can't castigate them too much because they've actually been out there trying.
They have. I wonder if they need to take a look at how they develop pitchers and how they work with their pitchers, because guys like Quintana, like they got nothing out of him, and maybe he's just done. But that's the kind of, lots of teams make those low priced gambles and they actually work out, or at least work out better than he has a 6.70 ERA. Like they work and 0 wins. Like at least, like if they could have coaxed a 4.5. Like a ERA out of him, like just a 5-inning starter with a 4.5 ERA, and right now he had 5 wins. Like they haven't been able to do that.
Yep, you're right. Mitch Garver is back. 2 solo homers in the doubleheader yesterday, in the second game of the doubleheader. He's got 10 homers on the year. He's actually got an 896 OPS. I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, this is a bounce back year for Garver. It just has been shortened by injury. Pretty impressive to see him homer twice coming back. I think he's someone who needs to be picked up in. I don't know if he's still sitting. I don't play a lot of 12s, any 12s with waivers. I have some drafts and holds, but not 12s with waivers. So maybe he's sitting out there in some 12s, because I felt like he kind of also like sneakily came off the IL yesterday. Like there wasn't much buzz about that.
And to your point, he was only starting 63% of main event leagues. He's 100% owned.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of noteworthy. Yeah. So he is only 64% owned in the 12s, and only 48% started yesterday. So
he's out there. He needs to be added, and all those other 32% of 12s. He needs to be added on Sunday, like for sure.
Yeah.
I could see him in some one catchers,
I think too.
Yeah, I was going to say I could see him in some one catcher. I did check our friends and family for him. He's already owned, but I think in some one catcher leagues, like I think I would take him over some of the lower end guys that are being used in those leagues right now.
Yeah, I'd agree. We had a question on Garver. Might as well hit it now. I'll pull it up here. But let's see here. Okay, who do you like the rest of the season? I think this is easy. Kev Rich was asking, rest of the season, you like Stassi or Garver more in head-to-head points? I think it's a slam dunk Garver, right?
And I like Stassi, but I like Garver a lot more.
Yeah. So
I think Stassi has his own almost 900 OBP. OPS. So like Stassi's been great, but there's like a little bit of a track record there with Garver where, he can be really, really powerful, and Stassi still doesn't have a 10 homer season. Although I think like that's going to happen this year. And I think Stassi in a lot, like he's probably someone too, who's, I think in the Yahoos and things, like when I write in the waiver wire columns, like Stassi is someone who's also under-owned right now.
Yeah, he is. So I think that's a good point, because I guarantee you, most people, I would bet you 75% of the people listening right now didn't know that Stassi was that good this year.
Yeah.
It might be 50% of the people talking right now that didn't know that Stassi was that good this year.
Yeah, and this is where it comes back to, especially in the one catcher leagues. Like if you're willing to put in the work, you can wait. Start with Yadi or Molina, and then in the second last round, and then you can grind that catcher spot and dump him at some point and pick up Stassi, pick up guys like Garver. You can grind the catcher spot. It's a little harder to grind them in the 2 catcher leagues, although we have seen some guys like Stassi, who is widely available at times this year. You can grind that second catcher spot if you're willing to work at it.
So here's the problem with Stassi. I mean, he's been very good. This is 2 years running. He's just not playing that much.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only played 40 games this year. He's only had 139 plate appearances. You want to get a little. I mean, it's great that you're your second catcher. If you're in an only, you're loving this. He had a pretty long IL stint.
Yeah,
in
it's a
May,
pretty
and
long.
that's
I was
fun.
going to say, actually, it's 2 IL stints. He has a really short one in
Yeah,
April, and then a
yeah,
long one for a concussion. So, if he could have been at 200 at bats by now, probably
yeah,
without them. So that's pretty good.
yeah. Garver though has 10 homers in a shorter period of time, and I want the pop. I want the chance for 10 homers the rest of the way.
Yeah,
And as good as Stassi's been, I don't see that. I don't see that coming. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Angels give him more playing time the rest of the way, but I think that they're pretty content just alternating he and Suzuki, who
yeah,
is not having a great year, but has had other good years. He's actually having a really bad year. I didn't realize how bad Suzuki's been. 294 slugging. Yeek.
yeah.
Yeek. But that just shows sometimes how quickly it can go, too.
Yeah, Stassi also has a 405 BABIP, which for a catcher is probably easily 100 points too high. So
Yeah.
his 297 in his career, and that's with that 405 influencing it like heavily this year. So like that 301 batting average is coming way down. So at that point, he kind of is Garver with less power, because Garver's not going to be a high average hitter, but hopefully most seasons Garver won't kill you. I know he did in batting average at one point last year, but like
Yeah.
Stassi he probably is Garver just as far as batting average goes, just and isn't quite as powerful.
Right. That's right. And so, I think it's but yeah, it just to me it's like it's not as much of a slam dunk as I thought it was going to be. So
Yeah.
thank you for the question, Kevin. It was a better question than I realized. But I still prefer Garver, but it's a lot closer than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Let's a couple more topics before we get out of here. Casey Mize pitched very well. Was in fact great. Needed 54 pitches to get through 4 innings. Shutout, 4 shutout innings. Had a big league against the Rangers. You're like, okay, good, easy win. No, they took him out after 4 innings. He only allowed 1 hit, no walks. What's this is why you hate. I mean, and he's only thrown 3, 4, and 4 the last 3 outings out here too. What's going on here, Fred?
Yeah, so this is a different plan. My big concern. So I have Mize in 1 draft and hold. So whatever. Like I'll throw him in and not expect to win if I don't have anyone that week or whatever. But my bigger concern is that this is going to happen to Tarek Skubal at some point. It's a different way of managing innings by the Tigers. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like from a non-fantasy perspective, like I don't think there's anything wrong with the Tigers doing this. But we traditionally see teams like the Tigers just use guys like Mize till the beginning of September and then shut them down, right? Run them up to 140 innings or something and then shut them down. But let them make 5 and 6 and 7 inning starts up until then. The Tigers have this different plan now where Mize is, so his last 3 outings, he's thrown 56, 50, and 54 pitches. So they've clearly got a goal of keeping him to 60 or less. And those starts all went okay, and he still didn't throw more than 4 innings in any of them. So he's not going to win any more games. And they're treating him as a starter. They're not going to, just to get him wins, they're not going to have him piggyback off an opener. Like, why would the Tigers buy? Like, they want him to warm up and prep and go on the mound like a starter. But if they're going to pull him after 3 or 4 innings, I think Casey Mize might be done winning games for this season.
Yeah, because, I mean, he was as efficient as possible. 54 pitches through 4 innings is good.
One
really
hit.
Good.
Yeah, 1 hit,
no
0
walks.
walks. Yeah.
No walks. I'll say this, though. You know what? Yeah, it sucks for us. But the Tigers, they have a plan.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty readily apparent. They're not a bad team. 44 and 51 now. They've won 4 in a row. They're ahead of 2 teams now in the division, and they're gaining on Cleveland. I mean, good for them, but bad for us. Very bad for us. Very frustrating. And I fear you're right. Skubal will be in the same boat. This is a different way of load management, and this is the way they're targeting it there. But yeah, Matt Manning gets a starter later this week. I think he'll be on a similar track.
In what leagues would you keep Mize? AL only, and that's it?
Yeah, my score sheet league, where I don't care about the win. But yeah, if any league where I care about wins, I mean, I might hold him 1 more start just to see if they stay on this path. But
I could see that. I guess he's got 1 more start later this week, so you'll know. Right. You'll know by Sunday night. But if he throws 50 pitches in his next start, like you're better off or just, yeah, you're better. No, you're better off to use just a long reliever. Just find someone who's been a long reliever and is throwing pretty well, because like that long reliever should get you 2 or 3 more wins at least. If you left them in your lineup the
Right.
whole time, they should get you 2 or 3 more wins. He can't, mathematically, he can't win a game if
I
this
was
is
just
what
going
they're
to
going to
say
do.
there's zero chance for a win as long as they keep
So at
using
that
him
point,
role.
like and the other thing about Mize is he's not a strikeout pitcher, and that's something we'll evaluate more when we do 2022 draft prep. But like his K per nine is 7.2 this year. That's really low in this era for like someone who's considered a good pitcher. So when you're going to get 3 or 4 innings out of him, you're only getting like 3 strikeouts. So that would be like if he was really, really good, and I was like, okay, he's going to make a 4 inning start, and he's going to, or a 3 inning start, but he's going to strike out 6, and and be lights out, then I'd consider him. But you're getting 3 or 4 innings, you're getting 2 or 3 strikeouts. It's just not good enough.
I agree. One more team I want to talk about before we get out of here. The Baltimore Orioles you had put on our list, and you mentioned Spencer Watkins. He pitched well again yesterday. Shut down the Rays, got the win. Allowed just 1 run over 6 innings, 7 Ks. I didn't see this coming at all. Tell me more about Spencer Watkins.
So I didn't see it coming either, and I don't buy it. I just can't. I can't do it. Yeah. This start looks really good, and the Rays are good against righties. That was the other, when I was working on splits and everything. The Rays are bad against lefties. Right. So he, like, the Rays should have been good against Watkins, and the Rays being bad against lefties makes sense. Like Brandon Lau, Austin Meadows, G-Man Choi, like these guys are all lefty bats with platoon splits. Like it makes sense the Rays are good against righties. So this start really comes out of nowhere. Yeah. But the other 2 starts, like I watched him pitch against the Blue Jays. He held them off, but 2 strikeouts, 3 walks. I didn't see his White Sox start, but 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. Like I think if Watkins was on a good team, I would take a chance. But I think just the uphill battle of being on probably the worst team in the American League, I just think it's too much of an uphill battle. Hitter-friendly home park. It was a good start, but I can't see me even putting in a $1 contingent bid on him on Sunday. I guess I'll have to look at what his matchup is next week, but I don't see who he's facing in the AL. Even the Mariners, I don't know if I'd want to really use him yet.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. What about John Means returning tonight?
That one's really interesting. So if you had Means, would you activate him? I don't have any Means this year, and I wasn't against him in draft season. I just didn't quite get him. Would you activate him knowing that they changed the rule on pitching substances? And there's videos of Means that look a lot like he was using pitching substances before, when he was off to this torrid start to the season. Like there's stuff out there that makes it seem like he was one of the many guys, but definitely someone who was benefiting from this. So he's coming back from injury, and they've taken his substances away. Would you sit it out and watch him for 1 start?
Absolutely. As I don't know how many innings he's even going to throw. We could be dealing with the Mize problem. Guys coming back off of injuries, I almost certainly would want to, sit in the first start there.
Yeah, I could see that. Now, I did just say Means the lefty, and I did just say the Rays are bad against lefties, so this could be a chance for him to get off to a decent start. But the substances thing with Means, especially because he was someone who was good, like solid last season, but this season had really taken off, and you just worry a little bit. Also, even this season, and this could have all been injury related, but he was like incredible for about 7 starts, and then as he was heading out, like he had like a 6 innings, 4 runs, and then he had a good one, but then he had like 5 innings, 3 runs, and then he had a start that he left. So maybe that was just the injury starting to set in. Right. But he was starting to run out of magic, like the 12 strikeouts, the 9 strikeouts, which is not classic John Means. Those were earlier in the year, and then he was starting to cool off. So even with, like you said, the worrying he won't even throw 5. I think I'd sit out 1 start. The good thing is if you sit out 1 start, it's probably not going to be that special. And if he has a nice start, let's say he goes 5 and gives up 1 run against the Rays, then you're like, okay, like here we go. I'll use him going forward, hopefully for the rest of the season. And maybe he keeps it going, but I'm a little worried about him. I would not be buying low on him. How about that also right now?
All right. Not justifying the means. I like it. So we'll finish with that. We actually do have one question. I lied. We'll finish with a question, and then we'll kind of go from there. Damian Dabrowski asks, what's going on with Tony Gonsolin? Why does he suddenly look like Rick Ankiel? Yeah, well, he's coming off a shoulder problem. I think it's that simple. I just don't think he's the same pitcher as he was before. Maybe he's changed his mechanics to try to stay healthier. And he's just not the same guy right now.
I think that might be a bit of an overstatement too. Like he looked like Rick Ankiel last night, but pitchers have these starts. Like if you go back, like since he's been back, like the previous start he threw 4 innings and walked 1. The previous start to that he threw 5 1/3 and walked 1. So like he's had some walk troubles for sure since he's been back, and he's for sure walking too many batters. But and I think he's definitely not in Rick Ankiel territory, but he doesn't seem to be 100% right now. Since he's been back, like we've got this season, we've got 1 5-inning start from him in 7 starts. So, and the pitch counts they're not up there, but he's not staying in games. They're not pulling him because of pitch counts. They're pulling him generally because he's not pitching that well. So, I don't want to drop Gonsolin just because Dodgers pitchers sometimes figure it out, but I'd be getting pretty close. So
19 walks in 28 innings. So he had those first 2 outings were pretty bad too in terms of walks. So he's walked at least 1 in all but 1 outing so far. And when would you drop
Gonsolin in a 12 and would you drop him in a 15? Yes, no, one or the other.
No, for sure in the 15 because again, who the hell am I going to pick up?
You're picking up Spencer Watkins. Yeah.
In a 12, it's borderline, but I'd probably. I don't know. I'd still want to see one more time out. I mean, the fact is he faced the Giants too. It's also was a tough outing. Which I didn't think I'd be saying was true 2 years ago, and definitely, and even this year, I didn't. At the start of this year, I didn't think that was true, but here we are. So I'd probably hold on to him too. But good question.
Think I would too.
Thanks, Damian, for the question. Appreciate that. What's your next article for Yahoo? Do you know yet?
I've got a trade article coming out today, just some players who I think if they get traded, who are rumored to be traded, and if they get traded, their value could go up after the deadline. And then same kind of theme on some waiver wire guys coming out later this week, just some guys who maybe are on the bench right now, but if popular trade rumors happen, they could get thrust into the starting lineup, or they're a setup man right now. And if popular rumors happen, they could be a closer, things like that, coming out for later this week.
All right. Very good. Well, hey, thanks everyone for listening. Tomorrow we got the Prospect Podcast. We'll have a guest to be named later for Thursday. Also have Chris Harris from Harris Football on a football podcast tomorrow morning. So looking forward to that. And golf later today. Scott Genstad nailed Colin Morikawa for the British Open. And Jeff Ritter, who is for Sports Illustrated Golf and Morning Read, he was all over Jordan Spieth and who finished second. So we're going to do the golf one for the 3M Open later on today as well. So lots of programming for you there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the questions. Be well. We'll talk to you soon.